Welcome to the Entrepreneur Gene. I'm your host, Laurie Barkman. Each week, we'll hear from founders and CEOs to explore key decisions they've made for growth, value creation, and challenges along the way. This show is sponsored by the Business Transition Sherpa, offering entrepreneur advisory services from transition to transaction. Don't forget to hit subscribe, follow us for the latest episodes, and visit thebusinesstransitionsherpa.com for more exclusive content. Let's dive in. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Entrepreneur Gene. I'm Laurie Barkman. I am so excited to talk with my friend today. I think you're going to be very impressed with him. He's an entrepreneur with an engineering and project management background. He's the author of Pathfinders, a guide to navigating your career path. He's so passionate about this topic that he's a national speaker. He travels all over the country talking about mentoring and having a private board of advisors. And he has a podcast called Pathfinders, which I'm sure you're going to want to tune into. He has built a successful HR tech company that has helped to save so many companies and so many large organizations lots of time and lots of money in finding top talent and retaining that top talent. Let's welcome to the stage my good friend, Pete Schramm. Welcome so much. He's the CEO and founder of Lattitude. Welcome, Pete.
Hey, Laurie. Hey, everybody. What's going on? Good morning.
This is the right place to be. You are the right place to talk to because we're going to talk about having an entrepreneurial gene. And I know that you have an amazing story. So, right out of the gates, Pete, the question is there an entrepreneurial gene? And what does it mean to you?
Yeah, so I think it's something that people have. And even if they have a little bit of a bug or they have an itch that they want to scratch, there's something inside most people whenever it comes to that. You talk to folks, they're like, oh, I kind of want to start my own thing. Oh, I kind of want to start it. But do they act on it is the question. And you've probably been in many of those situations, coffees, lunches, dinners. Well, what if I was to start this? But the ones that take action is where it really gets to be exciting. And you might even fail. Statistically speaking, you're going to start something off and it's not going to win. Now, winning can take a couple of different shapes, sizes, durations, and levels of and tiers of winning. But I think it's something unique to each situation and scenario. In my instance, I come from a legacy of farmers. And you mentioned HR tech, defense contracting background. You're like, what in the world? How'd this all come from the farming piece? And I think it's because most of my family tree doesn't know how to sit still. So if you go back to both of my parents grew up on farms, all of their parents grew up on farms, and that's something where I will write a book, or well, I guess publish a book in the future called Farm to Founder. It's not yet finished, but it's an ongoing work in progress piece because there's so many things that you learn on the farm. Having a backup plan, being able to manage people, coordinating with vendors. Hey, what do I do whenever something breaks? You just have to learn how to fix it. You wear a bunch of different hats, and so many of those things translate into the entrepreneurial adventure.
I believe that. And I also think it's an interesting analogy with farms because when we talk about business owners and what we can control and what we can't, you can't control the weather, can you? Right? Farmers have to deal with it and there's a lot of things in the market that they just don't control like how often animals do what animals do, right? We can't control our animals. I think if we have the approach of thinking about our people and what we can control in our business, I know that's why you have such a big focus working with um, the business that you've created, which we're going to talk a little bit more in a moment. But conceptually, right, as an entrepreneur, there's things that we can control, there's things we can't. And one of the big things that helps us create enterprise value is having a wonderful team around us, which is why you're focusing on what you're focusing on. So tell me, in your experience as an entrepreneur and working with companies who are dealing with lots and lots of challenges, what do you think is the biggest challenge?
Well, let's talk about the people problems first, right? And let's talk about the people problems as of late, right? The last 5 years, so it's kind of current and applicable. Not everybody's in the same office every day. Even if you're a hybrid organization, you're probably still not in the same office every day. And let's call a spade, Lori, that it was communications was tough before. Are we all on the same page? Do I understand what's expected of me at work? Do I have consistent comms and time set aside to meet with my manager, let alone, my different mentors and the people on my personal board of advisors? Okay, whenever we're not all in the same office, how does that increase the level of difficulty and complexity of those random water cooler conversations, right? They're almost gone now. So I think communications is one of the biggest pieces, and intentional belonging, establishing, keeping it going, sustaining that sense of intentional belonging. There's a lot of empty kind of check the box things that happen out there. But I think if we as leaders and at organizations are able to bring our people together and clearly communicate what our plan is, the progress of it over time, that's kind of sort of step one. Of course, we have to generate revenue and get the product or services out the door. But if we don't have our people all on the same page, all kind of going to that same true north, then darn, does it get a lot more difficult to achieve our dreams.
It's really hard to get everybody to align to that true north. It's super difficult. With the changes in our workplace, moving to hybrid, remote, and so on, what observations do you have? Does that layer in a different challenge?
I think it does, but there's still challenges that have been with us the entire time, right? You got to do it. You got to say, hey, here's my game plan. Here's what we expect, right? Begin with the end in mind. Here's how it's going to work. Here's how you're able to ask questions along the way. I just gave a session at Disrupt HR recently where I talked about embracing the chaos, right? And it was all about change management. And so, how can we clearly and effectively communicate? Start small, pilot some of these different changes, but don't stop, right? And sometimes the information to share isn't all rainbows and butterflies, and that's okay. And I think the more you're able to build that trust, psychological safety, that respect over time, and be as transparent as possible. Of course, as business leaders, we can't share everything all the time. I get you there, but there's a lot of information that we can do. And you might be saying, Pete, this takes so much stinking time. Well, sometimes doing things the right way does take some extra time. But as you learn, you'll be able to streamline some of the processes. But I think that's the biggest piece, Lori, is figuring out how do we clearly and effectively communicate where we are, where we want to be, and how we're going to get there, and how everybody is part of that solution along the way.
Yeah, I love that. And a lot of CEOs and entrepreneurs can probably relate to that. And who can't relate to having challenges about our team? So, appreciate you focusing on that. What excites you about the future of your industry, specifically around creating solutions for companies to address some of these challenges?
So I think in our space, right, it's all about connection, retention, development, belonging, right? Three, four things that organizations of every size um, really need to be thinking about. And so our approach is more from an educational perspective. And if you say, oh my goodness, I love what's going on here, then let's take it to the next level. Sure, give us a call. We can work together. But it really comes down to the first piece. If I don't understand, like, how are you measuring engagement and connection and well being at your organization? I ask that to leaders out there listening. If you have 10 people, 100 people, 10,000 people, right, you should have some baseline understanding of what that looks like. Engagement surveys are a fine place to start. Going back to the comment that we just made before, if I'm not beginning with the end in mind and letting people know, hey, we're going to do a survey, then we're going to share the results, then we're going to tell you what we're doing with those results over time, think about all of that before you press go. Think about how you're investing in your people, right? We'll talk a little bit more about mentorship, but these are things that are industry agnostic, right? Help them put a plan together. But it's really the piece of, hey, I don't care what industry you're in. Obviously, there are industries with higher turnover than others, and different kinds of positions along the way. So some of that might be expected. And I also want to remind all the listeners that not all turnover is created equal. So just because you have a certain, percentage or number of people that turn over, have a look and see if you can break it down by people that you're wanting to stay, right? So we call that voluntary and then non-voluntary turnover. But then we also have another piece in there of regrettable turnover, right? So something for everybody else to think about.
If you love the insights on this show, you'll love the insights I share in my book, written for entrepreneurs like you who are building with your exit in mind. Take the next step in your business journey to make your business more scalable and valuable. Head on over to btsherpa.com/book to grab your free digital copy of the Business Transition Handbook. Or you can also click the link in the show notes, btsherpa.com/book. We've spent a lot of time learning from you here, and I really appreciate that. I'm going to ask you a few more questions so that we can continue to learn from you, but I also want to learn more about you. So what's the Pete origin story? Because you hinted at the farm. I want to explore that a little bit more. How did you get from um, Pete on the farm, family farm, to software mogul?
Yeah, well, I don't know if we made it the whole way to Mogul yet, but I can get you the backstory on it. We're on our way. We're still climbing up the mountain. I love bringing people together. If you're like, "Hey, what's one thing?" and you ask people around my life, you say, "What's Pete Schramm all about?" Say he's a people person, and he loves bringing people together. He's a connector, and his passion truly is bettering the lives of those around him. Some people go skiing, some people go to the mountains, go to the beach, whatever. I love meeting new folks and bringing them together. And so while you're picking corn and digging potatoes, there's a whole lot of that that's able to happen. Not so as I was able to learn more about sports, that was an opportunity to meet more people and test drive this competitive edge. I might be one of your taller guests that this show ever sees, Lori. We're gonna have to have a checker over time.
Yes, we do. We should have like a little marker right above your head or something.
Yes, exactly. So, I don't know if you can tell from the video here, but I'm 6'8" every day of the week. Yes, I do play basketball. Yes, I have to drive a truck that's I fit inside of. Yes, clothes are difficult to find. There's a couple other tall people questions that I usually get. We'll save those for later on. But given that, I was able to be recruited by more than 80 colleges to play basketball. And so it opens up this aperture of, okay, where do I want to go? And really thinking about student athlete approach to it. Ended up at a school down in Washington, D.C. Coming from Pittsburgh, get ready to cringe. We'll say Washington, D.C. many times.
Washington. Nice.
Little bit of fun there, but studied engineering because I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. So this recurring concept of challenge and opportunity, pushing myself out of my comfort zone, challenging myself to find new opportunities and opportunities to help others learn, grow, develop, and flourish. So then undergrad was mechanical, grad school was mechanical, and I tried in my first 2 years there at least to meet one new person every week because the more people you meet, the more people you can connect and learn from, really. I'm continuously in sponge mode. I was at an event even just last night, and it was some experts and thought leaders in the people analytics space. And somebody walked over to the three of us and they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is the thought leadership corner." And I said, "I am the sponge leadership corner over here. I'm soaking it up from these guys." Um, so it was absolutely awesome. But then as I went through the professional journey in defense contracting, building robots and other systems for supporting the warfighter safety, um, I learned that investing in the people around us not only feels good, not only helps, and it's the right thing to do as a person, but businesses thrive and grow and really can accelerate productivity, profitability when they get the people part right. So I just kind of test drive certain concepts. I had a team of about 100 people at one point, Lori, and I'm like, let's try this, let's try that. And not everything worked. But whenever the good stuff worked, and I let everybody know, hey, here's where we're going to go in this direction. Let's see. And I don't know exactly how it's going to turn out, but we were real throughout the process and we did some remarkable, remarkable things. So then in the middle of COVID, I did what everybody else does is they said, goodbye voluntarily to their six-figure salary. They moved back to their parents' basement. They left the big city. They left a great, fantastic career trajectory, and they did something that was statistically unlikely to succeed and start up their own software tech company outside of Austin or Silicon Valley or New York or Boston. So that was the next step. I followed what's in my heart and moving forward to fill this gap and this need for the workplace of the future.
I love that. That's an amazing story. It's an amazing journey. I know that you're still on that journey as an entrepreneur, and we've gotten to know each other because of Vistage, which should give Vistage a shout out and a plug. And hello to our friend Kevin Trout and some other
Yeah.
people that we've met along the way. You talk about connectors, and it's amazing how many connections you and I we've discovered since meeting. So
In and out of the yoga studio.
exactly. So I know you're really passionate about that. Pete, if you can go back in time and give yourself some entrepreneurial advice, what would it be?
Yeah, learn how to do marketing that matters sooner. And the second piece right after that is sales solves problems. Right. Whenever you're able to get somebody to give you their cold, hard cash, that takes it from a hobby to a reality. And that's really the ticking point. Is it going to be a business? And then how many people can you get money from? And that's in the plainest sense of the word, right? But really, that feeds into your Tam Sam Som, your business plan, everything else. But it's really do that as soon as you can in that entrepreneurial journey so that you're able to measure a couple of times and then cut once. A lot of times, and we've done it, right? We've cut a couple of different times where you take a pivot, you do an adjustment, you do some rebuilds whenever it comes to the software. But hands down, that's the biggest advice I'd go back and give myself, and give that advice to aspiring, curious, entrepreneurial dreamers along the way as well.
Oh, that's really insightful. One of the things I mentioned in your introductions that you're passionate about people building a personal board of advisors, but I didn't unpack that with you. Can you explain a little bit about what that is and why it's important?
Yeah. So as I was building out mentors in my professional development journey, I figured, okay, if I get one of these mentors, that's pretty helpful. What if I get two? What if I get three? Then I'm able to kind of learn and say, hey, this was good advice here. I'm hearing the same advice. Oh, I'm getting slightly contradictory advice. Very, very interesting. Something for me to think about. And then as I kept growing, people said, "Hey, would you be a mentor to others?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. I'll test drive it. Fake it till you make it, right, Lori?" And then somebody said, "Hey, would you give a TED talk to the Department of Defense?" I'm like, "Whoa, that's pretty cool." Talk about mentorship. I said, "Well, what if we could take mentorship to the next level?" So that's where this idea of multiple mentors, I kind of put together a framework of a personal board of advisors. And the concept is not new. I think Napoleon Hill talked about it over 100 years ago, but I haven't seen a structure and a checklist and a way to work through building, developing your own personal board of advisors. So, in the book Pathfinders, you mentioned it earlier, navigating your career map with a personal board of advisors. We talk about two things: career maps, what do you want to do? And the personal board of advisors, the who's going to help you get there. And I give out bookmarks to a lot of people, but it really just talks about who are those multiple individuals that you can surround yourself with along the way. That's what a PBA is.
That makes total sense. I think I've done that kind of informally without really having a plan around that in my career. I mean, I'm at the point in my career now where it's still really valuable even though I'm in my 50s, right? I don't think it ever ends. It's super valuable when you come out of college and you get your first jobs and you're going through your career. And then mid stage is really important too to help make important choices. So I feel like it's a skill. It's like going to the gym. You need to work that muscle. It's super important. So I appreciate you sharing what it is and why it matters. So we've talked a bit also, Pete, about what you do outside of work. You hinted at basketball. You talked about, um, farming, lots of things with the environment. But I know you also do other stuff. So what do you do for fun outside of building software and traveling around the country doing speaking engagements?
Yeah, so those are a lot of fun. Playing basketball, coaching basketball. Let's go ride on the Peloton. Big fan of doing that. I'd love just walking around and finding little coffee shops. That's a lot of fun. Traveling. I think I've been to 20% of the countries in the world. So that's been a lot of fun to explore new cultures. I think it's extremely humbling, and helping people trying to get more into volunteer work whenever I can through Rotary, through different boards that I sit on. But that's a big piece. And also trying to just do more stuff outside. That's very, very important to me.
You want to give a plug for some of the nonprofits you work with?
I'd say two of the biggest ones. Maybe I'll go to three, but let's talk about the Homeless Children's Education Fund as one of them. We just closed our annual campaign, so now we're able to support nearly 1/3 of the 3,400 plus homeless youth in the Pittsburgh region. So thank you to everybody's support. HCEF, you can go check it out. AJ does a fantastic job with the group over there. And then I'll give a shout out to Swickley Academy, my alma mater. And I'm fortunate enough to sit on the board of trustees and continue to provide insight guidance to the leadership over there. And the school changed my life. You might say, oh my gosh, I'm another supporter of another private school in the region. But hey, I'll tell you about my experiences there and how much of a positive impact it made. And so anything that I can do to help positively influence the outcomes and lives and journeys of others is so special. A big piece of this is people took a shot on me along the way, Laurie, and people continue to take a shot on me. So anytime I have an opportunity to pay it forward, it's something that I really believe in, and it's we're never too busy to intentionally help others at least a little bit.
Yeah, I know from getting to know you better, and obviously everything you've shared on this show today. You've communicated how you pay it forward and how you're appreciative, and your connections benefit not just your business, but obviously other people too. So that's really special. Pete, I know people are going to want to follow up with you. What is a great way for them to do that?
LinkedIn, easiest way. Pete Schramm, SCHRAMM, easy to find. I like to be active on there a couple of times a week, so please comment and please, comment whenever Lori posts this. Please share one of your takeaways and give her some love. There's a lot of time that goes into that this work.
Absolutely. Thanks for that. And Pete, thank you so much for coming on the show, sharing your background, sharing what you're passionate about, and sharing how this can help other entrepreneurs. Really appreciate you being on the Entrepreneur Gene.
Thank you.
So to our audience, thank you for listening. And as Pete said, please make sure to show your support for the show. We'd love to hear what questions you have and any thoughts and reactions you have on the show. Post on LinkedIn. You can also leave us a rating review in your favorite podcast player. And of course, also on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, Business Transition Sherpa. We've got our sister show on there as well, Succession Stories, which helps business owners. So we really hope to see you back next time on Entrepreneur Gene. Hey, that's a wrap. This show is sponsored by the Business Transition Sherpa, working with entrepreneurs who want to escape feeling like a prisoner in their own business and to eventually let go flawlessly. If you loved today's episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast. And if you want to help support the Entrepreneur Gene, I'd encourage you to leave a rating and review. Ratings and reviews truly help our show grow and get in front of more entrepreneurs just like you. If you do leave a rating and review, we'll be so happy. Take a screenshot of it, send it to my email, Laurie@btsherpa.com, and we'll send you a free digital copy of my book, The Business Transition Handbook. And we'll also enter you to win one of our monthly swag boxes. For show notes, including links to everything in today's episode, be sure to visit btsherpa.com. Also, as a reminder, you can watch this full video interview on our YouTube channel for the Business Transition Sherpa. While you're there, be sure to check out videos from our award-winning podcast called Succession Stories. We'll see you next time on The Entrepreneur Gene.